Hey everyone, welcome back to Supreme Catholic Meme, where we dive into the depths of scripture, history, and Catholic truth. Today we're continuing our journey through the Gospel of Matthew with chapter 2, one of the most fascinating and rich chapters of the Bible. Let's explore the profound lessons we can draw from the events surrounding Jesus' early life, from the visit of the Magi to the flight into Egypt, the visit of the wise men. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising, and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him, and calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. The Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2. The escape to Egypt. Now, after they had left, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night, and went to Egypt, and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I have called my son." The massacre of the infants. When Herod saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he was infuriated, and he sent and killed all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had learned from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled, because they are no more. The return from Egypt. When Herod died, an angel of the Lord suddenly appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were seeking the child life are dead." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was ruling over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And after being warned in a dream, he went away to the district of Galilee. There he made his home in a town called Nazareth, so that what had been spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled. He will be called a Nazarene. Chapter 2 begins with the Magi, wise men from the east, arriving in Jerusalem. Who were the Magi? The Greek term magos referred to a class of scholars and priests in ancient Persia, skilled in astronomy, astrology, and in predicting signs. They weren't Jewish, yet they recognized a celestial event, the rising of a new star, as the sign of a newborn king of the Jews. This indicates that the prophecy of a Messiah had extended beyond Israel, perhaps through Jewish exiles in Babylon or Persia, and was understood by these Gentile seekers of truth. When the Magi asked King Herod about the newborn king, it sent shockwaves through the royal court. Herod was a paranoid ruler, and this news wasn't just troubling, it was dangerous. Herod called in the chief priests and scribes to ask where the Messiah was to be born. They cited the prophecy from Micah 5:2, which pointed to Bethlehem as the birthplace of the promised shepherd of Israel. Bethlehem is no random location. It was the city of David, the shepherd king, where Samuel anointed him as Israel's future king. By being born in Bethlehem, Jesus is revealed as the new David, fulfilling the promises of the Old Testament. Herod secretly summoned the Magi to ascertain the time of the star's appearance. He instructed them to search for the child in Bethlehem and report back, so he could do him homage. But Herod had no intention of worshipping Jesus. He was plotting to destroy him. Herod's cunning hypocrisy stands in stark contrast to the sincerity of the Magi. The Magi followed the star, which miraculously led them to the exact house where Jesus and his mother Mary were. This was no ordinary star. Its movement and guidance signify divine intervention. Upon finding Jesus, the Magi prostrated themselves in worship and offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. These gifts were deeply symbolic. Gold represented kingship, acknowledging Jesus as King of the Jews and King of all nations. Frankincense symbolized his divinity and role as high priest, mediating between God and humanity. Myrrh, used in burial rites, foreshadowed his suffering and death for the salvation of the world. The Magi's gifts were not just valuable, they were profound theological statements about who Jesus is. Warned in a dream not to return to Herod, the Magi departed for their country by another route. This highlights God's providential care for his son and his ability to work through obedient hearts. Joseph also received divine instructions in a dream. An angel warned him to take Mary and Jesus and flee to Egypt to escape Herod's wrath. Joseph, a righteous and obedient man, acted immediately, taking his family by night to safety. This fulfilled Hosea 11:1. Out of Egypt I called my son. Just as Israel was called out of Egypt in the Exodus, Jesus represents the new Israel, leading his people into a new covenant. Herod, enraged that the Magi had outwitted him, ordered the massacre of all boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity under the age of 2. This tragic event fulfills Jeremiah 31:15. A voice was heard in Ramah, sobbing and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. Rachel, the matriarch of Israel, symbolically weeps for the innocent life lost, echoing the grief of exile and suffering in Israel's history. The parallel between Jesus and Moses becomes evident here. Just as Moses was saved from Pharaoh's massacre of Hebrew boys, Jesus is saved from Herod's brutality. Both were preserved to lead God's people. Moses in the Exodus and Jesus in the greater Exodus from sin to salvation. After Herod's death, the angel appeared to Joseph again, instructing him to return to Israel. Yet Joseph wisely avoided Judea, where Herod's son Archelaus reigned, and settled in Galilee, in the town of Nazareth. Matthew concludes this chapter with another fulfillment statement: he shall be called a Nazarene. While the exact reference to this prophecy is debated, many scholars connect it to Isaiah 11:1, where the Messiah is called a Netzer or branch from the line of Jesse. Others see it as reflecting Jesus' humility, living in a town of low esteem. Reflection. What does Matthew chapter 2 teach us today? First, we see the contrasting responses to Jesus' birth. The Magi, though Gentile, recognized the signs and sought him out to worship. Herod, blinded by power and fear, sought to destroy him. The priests and scribes, who knew the scriptures, stayed indifferent and made no effort to seek the Messiah. These responses challenge us to examine our own hearts. Are we seeking Christ like the Magi, resisting him like Herod, or ignoring him like the priests? Second, this chapter highlights the sovereignty of God. Despite Herod's schemes, God's plan unfolds perfectly. Through the guidance of angels, the obedience of Joseph, and the journey of the Magi, God protects his son and fulfills his promises. This reminds us that no matter how chaotic or threatening life may seem, God's providence is at work. Finally, the gifts of the Magi invite us to reflect on what we offer to Jesus. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh symbolize giving our best, our treasure, our worship, and even our sacrifices. What are we bringing to Christ today? Are we offering him our hearts, our time, our talents, and our trust? Matthew chapter 2 is not just a story of Jesus' early life, it's a revelation of his identity, his mission, and his call to each of us. Let's take the Magi as our example and respond with worship, trust, and joy, following the star that leads to Christ. Thanks for joining me on this journey through Matthew chapter 2. Next time we'll meet John the Baptist in chapter 3, a fiery preacher with a bold message. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Supreme Catholic Meme for more Bible insights. Until then, stay holy and let Christ be your guiding star.